One evening, I got home from work, not exactly feeling my best. I knew a nice long shower would do me some good, but then I saw an empty bottle of conditioner on my bathroom counter. I'd left it there a night or two ago, thinking it would remind me to get more on my way home. Luckily, I live about 5 minutes down the road from Walmart, so I stepped out for a quick trip, with only about 30 minutes left until they closed. Finding parking was easy in the middle of the night, but it gave me quite a different problem. Loitering in front of the store, eyeing me before I even got out of my car, was a creep. He was a strange, gangly man, looking as much like a zombie as he did a living person. His eyes tracked me without blinking as I made my way across the parking lot. I was hoping the guy would not engage with me, but that was just wishful thinking. Approaching the entrance, I did my best to keep my eyes forward and down to ignore him, but it didn't make a difference. At that critical range of about 20 or 30 feet, he called out to me and stepped closer.
Excuse me, miss.
I'm sorry, but I don't have anything to spare.
Can I get a sample?
I said I don't... Wait, what?
You seem sweet and savory like a nice, thick piece of...
Hey, back off!
Before I knew it, the creep tried hugging me. Fortunately, I was quick enough to duck inside the store and get the attention of a few nearby people, including an employee, so they stared him down as I continued through, giving me a chance to put some distance between us. Brushing it off, I headed for the bathing aisle. I knew exactly where my conditioner was, so it should have been an easy grab and go, a minute tops. Of course, when I got to the shelf, my conditioner was either out of stock or replaced with something else, because it just wasn't there. Annoyed, but determined to make the trip worthwhile, I looked around for the next best thing. As I stood there weighing my options, I got lost in all the different brands and scents and sizes, but I took my time. I was alone, or so I thought so I wasn't in anyone's way. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, I heard a sniff. At first, it barely registered. It was too quiet to pinpoint exactly which direction it came from, but it still tipped me off. I wasn't as alone as I thought, even so late at night in a part of the store that's never very crowded. However, when I looked around, I didn't see anyone. I figured I had just heard somebody on the other side of the shelf take a whiff of a bottle of shampoo. I started opening up to the idea of small talk with another woman, something to cleanse my palate from the previous interaction. Maybe I could make a joke or ask for a recommendation. Maybe they knew where to find what I was originally looking for. Sadly, that fleeting daydream vanished in the very next instant when I heard another sniff. This time it was louder, deeper, and unmistakably right behind me. My body froze in terror. I wrenched my neck to look over my shoulder, and there I saw that man that harassed me outside the store. He was crouched below my waist, burying his face into the back of my pants and sniffing my... I ran for my life. Every single inch of my skin was crawling. Even as I frantically complained to the employees at the front, I was still unsure if I was going to throw up or not. But thankfully, I managed to hold it together. Moments later, security apprehended the freak and held him at the store until police arrived. A quick check of the security cameras revealed he'd been sneaking in sniffs of my butt for several minutes before I noticed, but at least it provided ample evidence to arrest him. Afterwards, I stayed in contact with the police. I wanted to do everything I could to make sure he never preyed on another woman again, but unfortunately, it was already too late for that. As it turns out, he was a registered offender from a conviction nearly 5 years prior to the incident. Even worse, he had recently been caught multiple times for the exact same depraved shit he was doing to me. It's clear he's never going to change and probably has no desire to do so whatsoever. The only good that came of this is that he is put away somewhere he will never be around women ever again. Ever since that night, my anxiety has been crippling. I can't stop looking over my shoulder, always expecting to see someone taking advantage of me. I don't even want to go outside unless I'm with someone I trust, and that number of people is smaller than it's ever been. On a more personal note, I am also now heavily triggered by my own body odor, no matter what it smells like or what part of my body it's coming from. Whenever I smell myself, I get furious and terrified at the same time. I can't rest until I've scrubbed and rinsed myself raw, until I'm cleansed of whatever that sick freak wanted of me. A registered offender was arrested after he sniffed a woman's rear end. Police were dispatched after a report of someone loitering in the women's department. Their investigation led them to a nearby Walmart, where they used the store's surveillance system to track a man following a female customer. The officers watched as the suspect followed the woman, crouched behind her, and engaged in lewd behavior by inappropriately sniffing her bottom. The suspect was 38-year-old Khalees Caron Croder, who we previously made a video on for an eerily similar incident at a bookstore, so be sure to check that out. Crowder has a documented history of arrests and similar incidents dating back to 2021. He has since been detained.
This happened around Valentine's Day a few years ago. At the time, I worked at a local food store, and I was staying in a small house with a roommate. We'd known each other for a while, and I felt safe living with him, despite being a single woman. On a random day at work, the store was slow, so I was just minding my business at the register when this middle-aged guy walked in. He scanned the room almost like he was lost, unsure of what kind of store he was in. But then he found me, and his empty face lit up with a sudden dumb smile. Reflexively, I smiled back, putting on my customer service voice and greeting him like any other person.
Hello. Looking for anything in particular?
Oh, I think you know.
Well, I'm not a mind reader, but we got hot food, cold drinks, cigarettes, you name it.
Alright then. You.
Excuse me?
You said name what I want, and I want you.
Oh, you know, we don't sell people.
You know, I like a woman with a sense of humor. How about I get your number instead?
How about you buy a lottery ticket? Will those digits work?
That'll do. For now.
In the beginning, I didn't think much of this guy. Unfortunately, this man, whose name I learned was Damien, went beyond flirtation into full-blown obsession. Instead of coming in 2 or 3 times a week like a typical regular who had a crush on me, Damien came in every single day. Usually more than once. Each day, he would try to get at me in different ways, starting with cheesy pickup lines and cheap gifts from the drugstore across the street. But his attempts became dirtier, creepier, and wilder. And then came February. Every single time he showed up, he told me how many days there were left until Valentine's Day. By this point, I was really starting to hate him, and on February 14th, I was finally done. A few hours before my shift ended on Valentine's Day, Damien came in and sulked around the store for a bit. When he came up to the register, he put a pack of condoms on the counter, then stared at me saying,
I'm really excited for tonight.
Oh yeah? Why's that?
I have my bedroom set up for a very special date. I've got wine, chocolate, Plan B, and fresh bed sheets to soil. But I was wondering, can you give me these for free?
And why the hell would I do that, Damien?
Well, because they're going to be inside you later.
You know what? I'm done. Get out!
What?
I said get the hell out of my store before I call the cops!
Fine. Raw it is.
After one final sickening remark, Damien left. For the rest of my shift, I tried to not let the whole encounter bother me. When it was time for me to go home, I was paranoid just to walk to my car, thinking he could be waiting for me outside the store. I then made it to my car and locked the doors immediately. That put me at ease. I wasn't concerned about him at all on my drive home, nor was I worried about the walk from my car to the front door of my house. I lingered in the foyer as I slipped off my shoes and put my keys up on the hook, calling out to my roommate to see if he was home. It was Damien. He ran inside my home and held a knife to my stomach. I couldn't even react.
Happy Valentine's Day, sweetie.
Please get out of my house. I'm not alone.
Bullshit. I've waited here all day. I know you're lying.
Help! He's got a knife!
You bitch!
The moment he stabbed me, my body froze from utter shock. I couldn't breathe or move. I was stuck standing there, looking at his face of pure evil and hate as he stabbed me again and again. Finally, I heard my roommate's voice. He was shouting, but he sounded like he was miles away. He managed to scare off Damien. Then he locked the door. When he looked over at me, Reality finally caught up, and I collapsed. My roommate stayed with me and called 911. He kept telling me to stay awake to keep me from passing out. I focused on the pain of him pressing his body weight into my abdomen to slow the bleeding. At last, the ambulance came. With a drip of morphine and a bag of blood, they told me everything would be alright. I'm lucky to be able to say they were telling the truth. I recovered, albeit with a chunk of PTSD to work through. Thanks to the help from my community, Damien was arrested. I'm immensely grateful to them, and most of all to my roommate. Had he not been home, had he not acted in my defense, something far worse could have happened to me. If not for him, I might not even be alive. A customer who frequented a store in Connecticut stalked an employee before stabbing her 7 times on Valentine's Day. Damian Davis, 35, is charged with assault, home invasion, burglary, and stalking. The victim is alive but injured. According to the documents, Davis was known to frequent Sam's food store in Manchester where the victim worked. On the evening of the stabbing, surveillance camera captured Davis crouching near basement doors outside of the victim's home. He was described as wearing a complicated hooded face mask. When the victim came home shortly after 7 p.m., Davis opened the door and went inside after her. A nearby Ring camera recorded screams from the victim. A few seconds later, Davis is seen fleeing the home. The victim's cousin, who was also in the home, reported witnessing the suspect stab the victim in the stomach. Prior to the incident, Davis hung out at a smoke shop telling others he was dating the victim. A witness there said Davis made a lot of inappropriate lewd remarks about the victim. Following the stabbing, from her hospital bed, the victim told her mother that she knew who her attacker was because he had come into the store earlier that day. Police tracked Davis down and arrested him. Davis told police where he ditched the knife, and also admitted to slashing tires in the victim's driveway in a previous incident.
A lot of people have been telling me I'm lucky I haven't died or gone to jail yet. I don't think luck has a single thing to do with it. The New York City jewelry business saved me from a whole lot of trouble. I don't mess with any of that shady shit. I do things right. Honesty keeps the people coming back to me because they know I'm 100% real. Every day I have to manage my anger issues, or I might crash out on the first person that asks for it. Everybody gets on each other's nerves constantly. It's a fact of life around here. I gotta deal with all types of customers, posers, and thieves. But there's one type of person I really can't stand, and it's some of the other jewelers in the city. Don't get me wrong, I respect rivalries, but there's a difference between fair competition and the kind of sneaky, conniving crap these rats get up to. They lie, cut, scam, and rip off every customer they can, making all the rest of us honest jewelers look like crooks too. There's a certain individual who's more guilty of this than anyone else. His lawyers are relentless, so I'll just call him the scammer, because that's what he is to his core. Our shops are close together in the Diamond District, and he takes full advantage of his proximity to my store to use my personal brand for his own gain. Time and time again, I've had people come up with something they claim they bought from me, only for them to later find out that it wasn't the same quality we advertised, or that the piece was completely fake. They asked me for a refund, and because I'm a good businessman, I work with them. I ask to see the receipt, and once I get a hold of that, I find out they never bought it from me in the first place. They bought it from the scammer. He knows people trust me, so he lies and says we're business partners selling the same stock, when in reality his shit is garbage. The first time it happened, I couldn't believe he had the balls to use my name while ripping someone off. I honestly thought it had to be a mistake, so I refunded it and said nothing, because I have a little something called integrity. Then it happened again, and again, and again. That slimy bastard would use my name anytime he wanted to rip someone off. I don't know how many people he scammed who never even realized it, but with each person that came to me with proof, my patience got thinner and thinner. When I tried to be reasonable with him, I was ignored and cast aside like the worthless crappy pedals from his store. He thought I was just gonna let it happen, let him tarnish my name, ruin my legacy. But for so long I tried to keep my emotions together. Then, one of my most loyal customers came in after getting duped by the scammer. They were sold a bracelet that might as well have been made of tinfoil and yellow spray paint, and that rat charged them like it was 14-karat gold.
I think you'll find this one particularly dazzling. Platinum hands, mother of pearl face. And that adjustable solid sterling silver chain makes this watch a steal at only $5,999.
It sure is beautiful. I just don't know if I can afford it though.
No worries, madam. We offer payment plans with interest rates as low as 30%.
Where's my money? Where's my fucking money?
Oh dear.
I said, where's my money, bitch? VVS? High 3? 14 karat? This is a piece of plastic you sold using my name! My fucking name! Can I get a little help over here? Get him away from me, please! Lying rat bastard piece of shit! Come here! At the last second, the scammer's cronies got a hold of me and pulled me back. They dragged me out of the store, saying I was lucky I hadn't hit him. Otherwise, I'd be going to jail. I was still pissed, but I knew what they were saying was true. I almost crossed the line. After a few minutes, I calmed down considerably, enough to go in and try talking to the man again. I knew he was just a scammer, but I was telling myself I needed to talk with him man to man. Screaming and fighting would get us nowhere, and at the end of the day, I had my customers' faith in me on the line, so I needed to do this right. There was still a scene when I approached the scammer the second time, but it was much calmer. Yet what did he do? He spat in my face. I grabbed that son of a bitch and smacked him, right before his bodyguard swarmed in all over me. I kept going for that rat, and he deserved it. The whole store turned into a goddamn brawl, and I was at the center, getting pulled away from my target, then beaten until I finally managed to break loose and get away. When the dust settled, I found myself in the hospital. But you know my favorite part? The scammer finally found himself where he belongs, in jail. However, I'm still waiting on my money. Rival jewelers in Manhattan's Diamond District erupted into a wild caught-on-camera brawl Friday afternoon in front of stunned shoppers, landing 2 business owners in cuffs and another in the hospital. Georgia K., 46, and his brother, 42, were both busted for allegedly pummeling their competing jeweler, Trax NYC owner Maksud Agajani, during the violent clash inside their shared business space on West 47th Street. The melee unfolded after Trax, 39, stormed into their store at K Diamonds, accusing them of ripping off both him and his customers in a viral social media post. Security eventually let him out of the store, but in a second clip, the feud between the rivals reignited before the brother spits in Trax's face, sparking an explosive clash that led him swarmed by a pack of men and allegedly beaten down. Trax was taken to a hospital where he recorded another video showing off red marks around his neck, saying the rivals tried strangling him with his own chain. The Akay brothers were charged with assault.
I'm a worker at my local Walmart supercenter. There are hundreds of other employees besides me. I barely know or interact with any of them. The only guy I could say I was friends with was Mike, an old widower, twice my age, who honestly should have retired a long time ago, but he kept himself busy here as a greeter. All evening long, he would stand around the entrance, checking receipts, talking to customers, doing his best to make Walmart seem less like the gigantic, faceless mega-corporation that it is. I was a cart jockey. Since I spent 80% of my time in the parking lot and entrance, Mike and I would socialize the most, since we worked in the same area. Recently, however, there had been rumors of a potential serial shoplifter. For the longest time, we never even knew his name. Just that he was big, mean, came whenever he felt like it, and nobody could stop him. Sometimes the security guys would see him on the cameras, but they would never mobilize in time. Like I said, the dude was huge and scary looking, so nobody wanted to go near him. At a loss, we called the cops multiple times. They always showed up too late and offered too little. One day, Mike and I got to talking about this asshole. He took a level of pride in what he did, and stopping shoplifters was part of that. As he put it, this repeat offender was about to get what was coming to him. He said the next time he saw the guy, he was going to stop him no matter what. He just needed some backup. So, I agreed. 2 nights later, the time came. Nobody noticed the thief entering. He seemed to have gotten pretty good at blending in as a normal person, but once he had a bunch of unbagged stuff in his hands, he stood out like a sore thumb. I was in the middle of the parking lot when I heard Mike shouting, and that's when I knew it was go time. Immediately, I stopped what I was doing and ran to the entrance. I got there just in time as Mike was chasing and grabbing the thief, so I jumped in to help.
Get your hands off me, you wrinkly son of a bitch! You're not going anywhere! I've had it with you! Hey, it's over, man. Just give up already! Let go or I'll kill both of you! I'm not scared of you, punk! Pussies! You swine! Never come back here!
Before I got a chance to do anything, that guy socked me right in the face. He put me on the ground with a single hit, leaving me shocked and dazed. Once I realized the thief had gotten away, my first clear thought was to make sure Mike was alright. I was worried he'd gotten hit too, and for a guy his age, a fall like the one I took can be deadly, but he was basically untouched. Funnily enough, he was the only one who came to help me and make sure I was alright. My ego was bruised and my head was pounding, but I got to my feet, knowing I'd probably just have a black eye. Afterwards, Mike and I stood in the same spot for a bit, flabbergasted by what the hell just happened. Then, out of nowhere, a car blasted over the curb right at us. We didn't have any time to react. For a moment, everything just went black. The impact knocked me out harder than any punch ever could. When I came to, however many seconds later, I was so afraid of dying that I forced myself to get up, fighting through the agonizing pain that every tiny movement caused. I looked one way and saw the thief's car speeding off. Looking the other way, I saw Mike on the ground a good distance from me, but he wasn't moving. I wanted to go and try to wake him up, but the pain was too much for me, so I started screaming.
Mike! Mike! Are you alright? Come on, get up! Damn it! Somebody help! Help us! Help!
Mike didn't make it. He didn't die quick either. The stubborn bastard clung to life in the hospital for weeks before succumbing to his injuries. I had no idea if he suffered during that time or what. No way to know. As for myself, I had some broken bones and a concussion, but it beats being dead. A few days later, the cops finally found the thief. Turns out his name was Timothy. Doesn't sound like the name of a psycho killer to me, but I guess no mother envisions their offspring will grow up to be a monster. What that man did to Mike is a goddamn shame. It messes with me every day. Obviously, by the time I got back to work, I didn't care about shoplifting anymore. Nothing in that store is worth dying to protect. A 69-year-old Walmart employee died after he was struck by a man fleeing a Walmart he'd allegedly stolen from. Michael Bushy was working the night of October 16 at Walmart when 34-year-old Timothy W. Bassaw drove his vehicle into a group standing at the entrance of the store, striking Bushy and one other employee. Bushy later died at the hospital. Bassaw was stopped earlier that night, trying to leave the store with stolen items. He was known to employees for having recently entered the store and possibly stolen items multiple times. Bassaw argued and yelled at the employees in the parking lot before allegedly getting into his vehicle and driving at the group, ultimately striking 2 employees. Bassaw fled the Walmart, but police later pursued him. He crashed on Perry Road and was arrested. He was charged with the assaults, driving while intoxicated, and leaving the scene of an accident. Court records show Bassaw is listed as homeless.
I know all married women out there eventually have some degree of frustration with their husband's hobbies. For some, it's as minor as wanting them to spend a little less time tinkering in the garage and a little more time tinkering in the sheets. For others though, for women like me, it gets so much worse. My husband Jason has become a shell of a human being. All he does is drink, watch football, and drink. The lazy bastard doesn't even have a job anymore. He collects unemployment and skims cash from his mother's social security checks just to buy more beer. Day after day, he sinks deeper into the couch, eyes glued to the TV, playing football game after football game. When there's not a game happening live, he watches replays, never missing a single match, no matter how irrelevant the teams are. Believe me, I've tried every approach to get him to turn the TV off. I've been nice, reasonable, mean, seductive. I've even begged on my literal hands and knees. Nothing works. It all just makes him angry. And by God, has he grown a short fuse. At the slightest suggestion of putting something else on the TV, Jason will callously threaten me or our daughter. More than old enough to realize her father is a terrible role model, but I know his behavior must still be doing long-lasting psychological damage to her. The worst part is, Jason owns a gun. I used to know the combination to the safe until he changed it. Now, only he has access to it, and he sure as hell holds it over our heads. If I had $1 for every time he said he'd shoot me, I'd have enough money to leave him. Of course, I've thought about calling the police every day, but there's a problem. 2 problems actually. First of all, despite seeming like he has 100% tunnel vision for the TV, Jason still has crazy good hearing. It's like he can tell when anyone is talking about him, no matter how quiet they try to be or what room they're hiding in. He will hear me talking on the phone with the police, and that brings me to the second problem. Out where we live, there's not going to be a fast response time. Even if I'm lucky and it only takes 5 minutes, that's more than enough time for Jason to do something. I don't know exactly how he would react, but I know it wouldn't be good. His threats have begun to be backed up by physical violence, not against us, but against whatever is around him. We've gone through 2 coffee tables in the past few months, and I've had to replace many other things around the house. The only object he wouldn't dare to damage is his precious TV. How else would he watch football? That, actually, gave me an idea. Without a doubt, I want this deadbeat asshole out of my house. I am sick and tired of him sleeping and living on the couch, constantly hogging the living room, so he can rot away and watch football for the rest of his miserable days. Even my daughter is over it. She wants to have friends over. She wants to watch the Disney Channel, not the NFL. She won't admit it, but she's scared to even go in the living room. She's afraid of what might happen to her if she blocks the TV, even for a second. I know this because I'm scared too, and I don't want to live like this anymore. That idea I had, I've been sitting on it for a while, waiting for the right opportunity for it to hurt the most. It's simple, really. I'll just turn off the TV. I'll rip the cord out and hide it somewhere to make the point hit as hard as it can. I'll do it on the most important day in all of football, the Super Bowl. I don't have a clue how it'll go, but at least something will happen.
Hey, babe. Jason, honey, can you hear me? I want to talk to you. Jason, I'm talking to you. Hello? It's your wife. Remember me? God damn it, that's it! There. What now?
Plug it back in now.
No. You know what? What if I do this?
Crystal, no! Crystal!
I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me.
You stupid bitch! What's wrong with you? Why would you do that?
Jason? Oh, shit. Baby! Get up. We have to go. What's going on? Come on, baby. We have to get away from Daddy. Too late. No.
The Florida woman was taken out by her husband during a rage over an NFL game. Crystal Rohr, 38, was fatally shot by her husband, Jason Kenney, on December 22nd after she asked him to turn down the Monday Night Football game between the San Francisco 49ers, his favorite team, and the Indianapolis Colts. Kenney, who was reported to have been drinking during the evening, became enraged that Rohr told him she didn't want to watch football anymore. Roar was reported to have told her son to go to a neighbor and call 911 when the argument got really heated, and the boy said he heard a loud bang as he was fleeing the home. Responding deputies found Crystal dead, and her daughter with firearm wounds to the shoulder and face when they arrived at the scene. The girl is reportedly doing well on her recovery. The son and other daughter were uninjured. Kenny reportedly fled the scene and called his sister, telling her he had done something wrong, adding that it would be the last time they would talk before driving to his father's home, where deputies reportedly attempted to get him out of a shed before he took himself out.
Miss you. I miss you.
Last Valentine's Day, I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment with my girlfriend and my brother. He and I originally leased the place about 3 years back. My girlfriend had recently moved in and was obviously staying in my room. We had tentative plans to move out and get our own place one day, but living with my brother was very affordable, and as far as roommate situations go, mostly stress-free. For instance, he never got in the way of our couple time, as he called it. If we wanted to do something together like hog the living room for a night, he would just chill in his room or go out with his friends. When Valentine's Day came around, it was the same. I convinced my girlfriend that instead of going to some crowded overpriced restaurant, we should just cook something at home. I asked my brother if he wanted us to make him a portion, but he said he was content with staying in his room and letting us do our thing. The last thing he wanted was to third wheel. So, my girlfriend and I began our night. Everything was going great. We started cooking, and it honestly felt like my brother almost didn't even live there. My girl and I got tipsy on wine and whipped up a super fancy meal that took us forever to make. We ate across from each other on the little dining room table, and when we were finished, we started to clean up and load the dishwasher, hoping it wouldn't take too long, because we wanted to lay down on the couch and get on with the rest of the night, if you know what I mean. By then, it was almost midnight. We were still in the middle of putting things away when my brother finally came out of his room for the first time in a while. He saw that we were busy, and not getting busy, so he poked his head in for a second. He said he was heading to the liquor store and asked if we wanted him to pick something up for us, but we still had a whole bottle of wine to finish, so we were fine. Then, he nodded and left the kitchen. I was focusing most of my attention on my girlfriend, of course, but I could still hear him walking toward the front door. It opened. But instead of closing it right away, I heard my brother's voice again. He wasn't yelling to us, he was talking to somebody else. It sounded like whoever he was talking to had him nervous or something. Suddenly, the door slammed shut right before 2 men started shouting and screaming. I looked in that direction just as my brother came back into the kitchen. The 2 men were behind him holding guns to his head, and at us. It happened in an instant. I didn't have any time to prepare. None of us did. So we all just tried to do what they said in the hopes they would let us go.
Hands up! Don't move! I'm sorry, I didn't mean to let him in. Shut up! Don't talk to them! Please, just take whatever you want. Just don't hurt us. Trust me, we will. Now get down! I said get down! Okay. Except you.
Who? Me?
Who else, bitch? Go in that room and lie on the bed.
Oh God, no!
Get in there or die right here! Your choice! My boy here will watch over these bums while I take care of you.
Get away! Don't touch me! No!
We were forced to listen to it every single second, however long it went on. It must have felt like an eternity for her. When it was done, the door opened and he threw her out onto the kitchen floor with us, now stripped of all her clothes. Yet he still wasn't finished. He ordered me and my brother to take off our clothes as well. Then he began whipping us with belts mercilessly. His accomplice took his time to ransack our apartment and steal every valuable thing we had, but that was the least of our misery. The accomplice, as evil as he must have been to witness what was happening and not say a word, seemed to only be in it for the money. The bastard who gave the orders, however, he was a sick, demented scumbag whose only clear desire was to torture us. After the men left and that hour in hell was finally finished, we picked up the pieces and called 911. I knew my girlfriend would never be the same. She wouldn't speak. She just tried to cover herself, refusing to move or look at anyone. Days later, the man who beat us and forced himself onto my girlfriend was arrested. His accomplice was never found, and he never gave him up either. Without a plea deal for snitching, he was sentenced to rot in prison for 20 years. That's nothing compared to what he did, if you ask me. He wrecked our lives. He destroyed my girlfriend's life most of all. It's nearly been a year since that horrible night. I'll never forget how such a perfect Valentine's Day evening turned into hell on earth in a matter of seconds. This story was inspired by a disturbing Valentine's Day incident regarding a man who police said broke into a Dover apartment, burglarized it, and forced himself on a resident. Monty Wilson, 26, has pleaded guilty for the Valentine's Day crimes and will now spend 2 decades in jail. Surveillance video showed that the home invasion occurred around 1 a.m. A resident was leaving the apartment when 2 armed men he didn't know forced their way into his apartment. He was punched multiple times in the back of the head. The man was then taken into the bedroom with a female victim before a 3rd resident was forced into the room. The 2 male victims were made to lay face down on the floor, and the female forced to lay on the bed. The invaders then ransacked the house, stealing electronics, jewelry, wallets, phones, and bank cards. Wilson then took the woman into the living room and did what he did. Wilson also had 2 of the residents stripped naked and whip their backs with a belt. Wilson's accomplice was never identified. Allegedly, an associate of Wilson sent him Instagram pictures of the victims and his residence, saying they were easy licks, a reference to robberies. This is one of the most downright disturbing things that has ever happened to me. It happened a few months ago, on a night when I had some friends over at my apartment. It was a Saturday night, near New Year's Eve, so we were a bit loud, but nothing too crazy. We spilled out into the parking lot around midnight to set off some small fireworks. After the celebrations were done, we chatted for a bit and had a few more drinks. Then by 1 or 2 in the morning, the last of my friends had filtered out and gone home. So I went back inside. I honestly don't remember if I had locked the door or not. I just remember being tired and drunk out of my mind. I then crawled into bed and fell asleep with my clothes on. I didn't even get under the sheets. I just passed out pissed drunk. I started having a really weird, vivid dream soon after falling asleep. It had been a long time since I had a wet dream, though that's kind of what it felt like. Just a lot of stimulation down there. Like when it almost feels real and you're about to. But then, it got uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. It started to hurt a bit, and I'd never had a wet dream where it hurt. Slowly, I began to wake up. Yet the unwelcome sensation down there didn't dissipate with the dream. It got clearer. I opened my eyes, seeing nothing but darkness in my room, only able to focus on what was happening to my junk. I must have stirred or finally snapped out of it, because it suddenly stopped. I felt a bit of relief and started to relax again, hoping I could get some rest and avoid a nasty hangover. Then something worse happened. Still half asleep, I heard a zipper. Seconds later, before I could register what it was, I felt warm liquid drizzling onto my chest. The soaked section of my shirt quickly turned cold. Then the liquid splashed in my face and kept coming. My mouth was open from snoring, and the stream went straight down my throat and made me gag. The second I tasted it, smelled it, that foul saltiness, I knew what it was. Piss! All at once, my body revolted. I gagged again, heaving forward at the same moment my eyes shot open, letting the flow of piss pour into them. I started swinging and screaming, falling out of bed. Once on the floor, I looked around, desperately trying to figure out what the hell was going on. And that's when I saw him. It was a man that I had never seen before standing over me. His pants were undone, his parts spilling out, still spraying my unsuspecting body with piss. I shielded my face with my hands to little effect, and got out the only pleas I could manage.
Stop! Who are you? Shh! It's okay. I know you. What the hell? Cut that shit out!
Suddenly, all the confusion, fatigue, fear, and disgust washed away. Only one thing remained. the clear, undeniable knowledge that I had the upper hand in this situation, because I was, in every sense of the term, the most pissed off person that had ever lived. And this guy was about to get his shit rocked.
Whoa! Chill! Chill! Shut up! I'll break your face, you freak! I do not consent! Get out! Bro, if it'll make you feel better, you can pee on me. I said get out! Alright, I'm leaving. Chill!
I managed to get that sick, perverted psycho out of my apartment, but not before he emptied his bladder all over me, my bed, and my room. I was equally disgusted, furious, and simply disappointed in the universe that this all happened to me in the first place. Luckily, I had everything I needed to clean myself up and report that freak to the police. Almost as soon as I had finished showering, cleaning my clothes and bedroom of hopefully all his fluids, the cops found him. Initially, I was hoping that I'd be able to get some kind of explanation, something more than this just being a purely random event. Maybe he was stalking us from the parking lot, trying to get revenge on me for making noise late at night. Maybe this guy was some kind of serial ball-fondling piss burglar, and I'd at least done my part to put an end to his reign of terror. Nope, nothing from the scumbag but silence. He just picked me out by random because he thought he knew me from somewhere, because he thought I'd be into the same depraved, non-consensual groping and golden showers as him. Who thinks like that? Do I just have to go about the rest of my life being the guy who got woken up by a stream of a stranger's piss going down my throat? Believe me, I've tried to use humor to cope with this. From my perspective, it hasn't helped. A man is facing charges in an alleged burglary in Miami, where the victim said he woke up to a man fondling him and urinating on him. Miguel Rodriguez, 34, is facing charges including battery, burglary, and indecent exposure. The alleged incident happened at around 4 a.m. on Sunday at an apartment on Northwest 11th Street. As the burglar grabbed his clothes before he left, he said, "I know you." The victim gave a description of the suspect, and Rodriguez was found and taken into custody. During Rodriguez's court appearance, his defense attorney asked for a bond, noting that Rodriguez is an Air Force veteran, but the judge ordered him held without bond until his next court appearance.
Working night shifts at Walmart has taken a toll on me. I'm one of the bigger guys in the store, so I'm often expected to track and confront potential shoplifters. I never even signed up for that part of the job. I just got roped into it. It would help if the guys in the loss prevention office ever got on the floor, but they just sit on their asses in the office and watch the security cameras. In other words, they're all useless. One night, I watched a suspicious older woman walk into the store empty-handed. Something about her immediately tipped me off. She was mean and nasty looking, ready to go full Karen mode the moment someone inconvenienced her. That didn't make her a rich bitch though. It actually seemed like the opposite. She had no bag or purse, and the raggedy dress she was wearing had no pockets, which left her nowhere to keep a wallet, phone, or any money at all. Since she came alone, meaning there was nobody else to buy stuff for her, I decided to follow her from a discreet distance. I didn't have an earpiece to talk to the security office at the time, so I knew I was on my own, but I was used to that. I just had to be careful. This part of the job is always a delicate balance. The fact that I was obviously wearing the Walmart uniform instead of regular clothes made it much more difficult. I kept my distance and stayed busy with my hands while watching her in my peripheral vision. Occasionally, I risked a quick but direct glance, and every single time she had something in her hand. The way she always caught me looking at the very same instant was suspicious and maddening at the same time. I looked away as fast as possible to not seem like I was staring, but I knew she was on to me. Even weirder, every time I looked, there was a different item in her hand, though she wasn't accumulating anything. She didn't have a basket or a cart, and like I said, no bags or pockets. I considered that she could have been hiding things in her cleavage, but she didn't have a bra to hold things up, and that thin dress was very revealing. If she was hiding anything there, it would have been plain to see. For quite a few minutes, the same thing kept happening. I noticed her take something off the shelf, she'd noticed me and give me a death stare, and then I'd look away. By the time I looked back, she somehow made every damn thing disappear. I knew she was stealing, but I just couldn't prove it. Eventually, I figured I needed to get creative. Instead of watching her from afar, I needed to swoop in and get a closer look. I backed off for a bit and let her get comfortable, think I was giving up, when in reality, I was racing ahead to come around the aisle she was in right as I could feel she was putting something in her hiding place. When I rounded the corner, I got exactly what I was looking for, then a whole lot more.
Hey! What the hell are you looking at?
No way!
That's what I thought! Now leave me alone!
Wait, ma'am, stop! I know you've been stealing. I saw you shove that up your—
What? I didn't shove nothing! I'm about to shove your face if you don't stop harassing me!
Ma'am, I saw you insert store merch into your
I need some help over here! Get this bitch off me!
After fending her off for God knows how long, my coworkers came to help. Those lazy security guards finally did their job and pulled that psycho screaming bitch away. They detained her until the cops arrived, yet by then she was still going insane. They tried to search her so they could arrest her for stealing, but she kept claiming that everyone was just trying to assault her. At some point, they came to an agreement. They wouldn't touch her anywhere but her handcuffs, as long as she willingly revealed and surrendered everything she stole. That's when we all bore witness to the most haunting sight. One by one, the woman pulled things of every shape and size out of her privates. It was every single thing I'd seen in her hands before they disappeared, and now I knew where they had gone. Honestly, I wish I never found out. I can't go into specifics, but the sheer volume of things she had up there had to break some kind of record. How she was even able to walk, I'll never know. At the end of the ordeal, she was arrested and taken away. However, even though she is no longer my problem, I cannot forget her. Every time I'm dealing with a customer I think is shoplifting, she appears in the back of my mind, reminding me I will never know what to expect from people. A St. Petersburg woman who was arrested for shoplifting from a Walmart was also caught freebasing in the back of a police cruiser and sneaking drugs into county jail, police said. Rochelle Marie Toko, 30, was arrested Sunday after an off-duty officer witnessed her stealing clothes and hiding them in a lunchbox. Police said she would push a cart into walkways to check for employees, then retreat into the aisle to hide more clothes in the lunchbox, shielding her face when she saw employees walk by. Toko was arrested while leaving the store and admitted to stealing. While being transported to jail, police said Toko was smoking something in the back of the cruiser. The officers said the back of the car had been empty before arresting Toko. Toko was then removed from the back of the cruiser and had her hands down her pants. The officer couldn't find anything in the cruiser or on Toko's person until she got to jail. After arriving, police said Toko removed a crack pipe, narcotics, and small items from her private part during a search. Toko was charged with theft and possession of contraband. She is currently being held in county jail.
Miss you. I miss you.
I should have known my marriage was doomed from the start. My husband David was a very successful and attractive man, but he had already been married once before. He even had a daughter with the previous woman. The reason he gave for their divorce was always rather vague, though he always painted her as the villain. Sure, I had my suspicions, but I was naive enough to believe nothing like that would ever happen between us. I accepted his daughter as my own, and in time, we had twins together. After some time, We started a business together and opened several new locations together. The two of us were unstoppable. Sadly, paradise did not last. It decayed gradually at first, almost so slowly that it was unnoticeable. We both started to spend more time at work, but always at different locations. I told myself we were just working hard in those times so we could take it easy in the future. But then our home life began to suffer as well. When David and I were alone together, he would barely touch me or look at me. At night, he fell asleep the moment he laid in bed, leaving me wide awake, feeling alone and forgotten. Then, one night, I noticed he started smelling funny, like a musty and sweaty smell. I confronted him about it, but he would just say he was at the gym. That's when I knew something wasn't right. I knew he had to have been cheating on me, and he knew I wanted a divorce because of it. I wanted to take my sons and every penny he had, yet a divorce without clear cause would grant me next to nothing. I had to prove he was cheating, though with how busy I was, I could not do it on my own. That's when I hired a private investigator. The timing was perfect. Valentine's Day was coming up. Either David would have to bring the world to his knees and beg me to forgive him, or he would be planning something special for his mistress. Sure enough, it only took a few days for the private investigator to find out what David was up to. He had been sleeping with one of our receptionists, but what truly made my blood boil was where he was taking her. It was the exact same hotel we got married in. I couldn't take it any longer. The private investigator told me to wait for him to collect more evidence, but I was through. I had to confront that bastard right there and then. I drove the nice fancy car he bought me to the hotel that very night, when I found him in the lobby drinking with his little home-wrecking slut, so I let him have it.
You piece of shit! I knew it! You've been lying to me!
What? Who the hell are you? Excuse me, is everything all right over here?
No! Everything is far from all right! That man is cheating on me!
This is your husband? No, I'm not. I've never met this woman in my life. She just came up and started screaming at me.
Oh, that's bullshit! We were married here!
Ma'am, please come with me.
You asshole! You'll regret this! I'll take everything you have! You'll be nothing without me! You hear me? Nothing!
Despite my unbridled rage, I was not strong enough to fight the men that dragged me out of the lobby. Of course, I knew they had been fed a string of lies by my husband, and it wasn't their fault they didn't understand what was going on. So I did my best not to take my anger out on them. Luckily, I didn't have to restrain myself for long. Once they got me back inside of my car, they thought their job was done, so they left and went back inside. I stayed there for a minute or two, just trying to cool off before driving away. But then I saw him, David. He had the gall to come out to the parking lot to talk to me, as if there was anything he could do that would help. Actually, there was one thing he did that I liked. He stood directly in front of my car, trying to keep me from leaving. I couldn't resist that golden opportunity, his final gift to me. I put my car in drive and floored it. The engine roared and the tires spun as I rocketed toward him. His two-timing body crashed onto the hood and crushed the windshield. It rolled over the roof and tumbled onto the ground behind me, before I finally slammed on the brakes in shock. I did it. I really did it. I ran him over. Then, I looked into my rearview mirror and noticed he didn't seem to be getting up. Another gift from the universe. On July 24, 2002, Clara Harris, 60, killed her husband, 44-year-old orthodontist David Harris, after she found him with his alleged mistress, Gail Bridges. The private investigator Clara Harris hired to follow her husband videotaped the incident, which showed her striking him repeatedly with her Mercedes-Benz in the parking lot of a Houston hotel, the same one the couple had married in on Valentine's Day 1992. The first impact sent David Harris flying 25 feet. Then, Clara Harris crossed two grassy medians and ran over her husband 3 more times, before she put the car in reverse and backed over his body, leaving the car parked on top of him. David Harris later died of his injuries. The day in February 2003 when Clara Harris was sentenced to 20 years in prison for murdering her husband would have been their 11th anniversary. Last year, my old friend by the name of Danette told me she had inside access to the Super Bowl. She was talking to a reporter, some kind of high-profile sports commentator, and apparently, she'd been hustling him for all sorts of stuff. However, in order to seal the deal and get the ultimate prize, Danette had to take things a step further. Mr. Reporter had gotten a little bored playing with Danette alone. He wanted a threesome. Not only did one of my best friends just admit she was whoring herself out, but she was asking me to join her. Danette was persistent. She worked me over slowly, appealing to my particular interests. This wasn't just about the reporter, whom she assured was quite handsome. It was bigger than that. Through him, we could get close to the star players of the Super Bowl. It was a chance not only to score a night with some of the country's top athletes, but a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to gain access to the higher echelon of society. That kind of money was life-changing, and all just for 1 hour. I was in. Danette and I met up, then went to the hotel where the reporter was staying. The concierge recognized Danette and let us both up. I stayed focused and followed Danette's lead, hoping we could get this over with quickly. Once we got to the room and he answered the door for us, I was pleasantly surprised. He was actually kind of cute and didn't look much like a serial killer at all. Of course, I was still nervous as hell. The way the reporter was staring at me didn't help either. He was clearly more interested in me than in Danette, which meant I'd be doing most of the work. Still, I let her take charge. I didn't bat an eye when she pulled out those pills.
Hello, ladies. You're both looking irresistible.
Why, thank you, Mr. Famous Reporter.
It's time for your medicine, baby. Open wide.
Wait, what's that for?
Oh, it's just to enhance the experience for everyone involved.
Yes. Now here's one for the staff, one for stamina, and one more just for fun.
I'd seen enough commercials to know what the blue pill and yellow pill were for, though the white pill was a mystery to me. I didn't ask though. I was worried too many questions would kill the mood. Once he'd swallowed all of his medicine, Danette took my hand and had us sit on the bed with him. I tried to turn my brain off and just go with it. Then, after maybe 5 minutes, Danette suddenly got up, but the reporter didn't seem to mind. He was fixated on me. Danette told me to just push him over and do it. I was very reluctant, yet I did it. He was weirdly malleable, but I figured he was just submissive. Then, Danette left the room, and it was just me and the reporter alone. But then I realized he wasn't doing anything. I called out to Danette, asking her to come help make this a threesome like it was supposed to be. She re-entered the room with her coat on again, tucking the reporter's phone and wallet into the pockets. That's when I realized what I'd gotten myself into.
Danette? What are you doing with his...
Don't say anything, not yet.
But Danette, he's not moving. No, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done.
Sit down. If you screw this up for me, I'll tell your whole family what a filthy whore you are.
You wouldn't.
Oh, I would. Now stay put. This won't take long.
I did as Danette said. I stayed on top of the motionless reporter until she finished robbing him. She took his wallet, phone, passport, all of his cash and jewelry, everything. When she was done, she told me I could get up, admitting that she had given him a huge dose of sedatives, and I was just there to distract him until they knocked him out. He was unconscious all right, but he looked a little too gone. Feeling worried I'd been on too long, I checked for a breath. He wasn't breathing. I started to panic. I killed him. I didn't mean to, but it was too late. I'd made everything so much worse than just a robbery. Danette, on the other hand, told me to just flip him over onto his stomach. She said with all the drugs in his system, it would look like he just suffocated himself on accident. I had to believe her. We left the hotel right after. Danette told me she wouldn't get caught. She even had another guy helping her flip all the stuff she stole, which made me think this wasn't the first time she had done something like this. As it turned out though, it was her last. The hotel caught us leaving the dead reporter's room clear as day on the security cameras. We were both arrested before the Super Bowl even happened. I've been in jail ever since, trying to fight my way out of this. Danette claims I was her accomplice, but people have to understand. I had no idea about the robbery plan or the sedatives, and I never wanted to kill him. I just wish I could go back and slap some sense into my past self. A woman has been charged with the death of a television reporter while he was on assignment to cover the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Aiden Manzano, a 27-year-old reporter and anchor for Telemundo based in Kansas City, Missouri, was found dead February 5th in his hotel room. The next day, Police arrested Danette Colbert, 48, on charges that she had stolen Manzano's cell phone and bank cards. Police have previously said security video from the hotel where Manzano was staying showed him and Colbert entering his room together the day of his death. Footage showed Colbert leaving without him about an hour later. Authorities have said Colbert later used Manzano's credit card to make purchases at a New Orleans gas station and several stores in the area. It was later revealed that Colbert had an alleged accomplice, Ricky White, who commonly used substances to drug their victims. Investigators are working to determine whether Colbert and White were operating an organized scheme that targeted men in New Orleans and other locations in Louisiana and Las Vegas. They have already identified other men who appear to have been victimized.
Years ago, I used to run with this kid CJ. CJ was a complete and total crash out, a terrible influence, and all around just a shitty person. Despite all that, we were best friends. CJ loved getting into fights, rage baiting people, and beefing with everyone who ever spoke to him. He never did any of that to me though, at least not seriously. Feeling like I was the exception made me way too confident in going along with him. As we got older, CJ's ideas got wilder. We started out just as a couple of clout-chasing punks, playing pranks on our classmates and skipping school. But then he introduced me to the street life. Once CJ got a car, we felt like we could do anything. We started selling, posting with masks and guns, flexing every way we were getting high. And there were a lot of ways. Nothing mattered to us except amusing ourselves. We would harass random people in public, record it and post it, and act like it was the funniest thing anyone had ever done. Really, that was just the beginning of the end. Like I said, CJ was a crash out, and constantly driving around meant he was constantly road raging. He hated slow drivers, pedestrians, and especially bikers, just because he had to move over a foot or two when they were riding on the shoulder. One day, we managed to score ourselves a bottle of liquor. We got wasted, swerving into cars and shouting at people, trying to make them road rage back at us. Then we saw a guy on a bicycle cruising down the shoulder. He was wearing a bright red shirt, probably trying to be more visible, thinking it would make him safer. But to CJ, it just made him a target. That's when CJ got the worst idea of his life. Dude, you think I should hit that guy? Hell no, dude, they'll take your license. I never had a license, bro. I was just gonna give him a little tap anyway. Come on, man, don't do it. That's too far even for you. I swear, dude, look, just a little swerve. It'll look like an accident. I'm serious, dude, that's not funny. If it's not funny, then why are you smiling? What are you talking about? I'm not being a pussy and record it. No way, dude. Do it or I'll crash this bitch head on. Fine, Jesus! I was really hoping he wouldn't do it, that he was just messing with me. But we'd already been driving way under the speed limit to follow this guy for almost a full minute. CJ wasn't going to pass until I got my phone out and started filming. The second I pressed record, something changed. CJ got this insane look in his eye. Then he floored it. We raced toward the biker, but CJ wasn't going for a sideswipe anymore. We were heading straight for him. I tried to scream at him to stop, but my throat locked up. I just pointed the camera and watched. It happened in an instant. 1 second, the biker was in front of us. Then we just mowed him down. His body cracked the windshield and went flying over our heads. We ran the bike over like it was nothing. Then, all of a sudden, it was nothing but clear open road ahead of us. Immediately, CJ and I began laughing. He was absolutely manic, on top of the freaking world. I laughed too, but more out of reflex. I didn't know how to process what just happened, so all I could do was laugh. Deep down though, I was mortified. Looking behind us in the side mirror, I saw the biker face down in the gutter. He wasn't moving. His body got smaller and smaller as we drove away, but he never moved, not an inch. I even said something about it to CJ. I told him the guy was knocked out, even though I knew that probably wasn't the case. No, I felt certain about it. We had just killed him. At the time, I just kept laughing it off and going along with whatever CJ wanted to do. He didn't seem bothered by it at all. Not long after, he wanted to get lunch, so we stopped at McDonald's. We ate in the parking lot. The whole time, I kept telling myself I had imagined hitting the biker, that it wasn't real, that it couldn't be. that it was just some weird, scary dream. Of course, what we did eventually caught up to us. The biker we hit was found dead, and since CJ forced me to post the video on Snapchat, it was an open and shut case. Within 24 hours, we were both arrested. There was no use trying to fight the charge. I pled guilty, and so did CJ. But I remember him laughing in the courtroom where the judge made him face the facts. Personally, I'd be ashamed of this for the rest of my life. I'll regret it until the day I die. I'm still serving out my prison sentence, a term which many people have said is far from long enough. I tend to agree with them. The thing is, I'm excited to get my life back one day, even if I'll never feel like I fully deserve it. But there's an issue. CJ and I will get out at the same time, and I know that Psycho Crash Out is going to try and find me. He already ruined my life once. I can't let him do it again. This Crash Out story was inspired by a case involving two young men who pleaded guilty to the murder of a retired police chief in Las Vegas. Jesus Ayala, 20, and Jameer Keys, 18, appeared for sentencing hearings on Tuesday in Clark County District Court. Authorities accused the pair of using a stolen car to intentionally hit 64-year-old Andreas Prost, the former chief of police for Bell, California, as he rode a bicycle in the Centennial Hills neighborhood. Police identified Ayala as the driver of the car and Keys as the passenger who filmed the incident. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police initially said the crash was a case of hit and run, but they later added murder charges after a video went viral. "My world was destroyed," Crystal Prost, the widow of Andy, said. The defendants declined to comment during the sentencing. Investigators said they discovered that Ayala and Keys targeted multiple other victims before Prost was killed. They went on a destructive spree that morning, involving the theft of 4 cars and using them to hit a bicyclist who survived, as well as another driver. Ayala's defense team and prosecutors agreed to a sentence of 20 years to life. The plea agreement for Keys specified an 18-year-to-life prison term.
I wish I could say I'm an only child, and while I technically am, the reality of my home life simply doesn't reflect it. There's a man-child living in my parents' house, my dad's loser older brother, Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob used to have a life. He had a wife and 2 kids, but she divorced him, and he lost custody, along with half of his money. He blew the other half of his money on idiotic sports betting until the bank foreclosed on his house. After that, his only remaining option was to move into my dad's house. So, instead of having a little brother or sister down the hall, I have an Uncle Bob. These days, the only thing Bob cares about is trying to win his money back the same way he lost it, by betting on football. Whenever he lands a job, which he never holds for very long, that's where all his money goes. At this point, what was once a sad sight to see has become frightening. Whenever a football game is on, Bob hijacks the TV so he can see how his bet is doing. I don't know if the betting system is really rigged against him like he says, or if he's just a moron, but it never goes good for him. Sometimes he wins, but after every win comes a crushing loss. He used to get depressed when he lost, but now he just gets pissed off and out of control. He screams at the top of his lungs, throws things across the room, and nearly breaks the TV every time. We used to tolerate him forcing us to watch football. Not anymore. Nobody wants to be in the same room with him as he's watching his money go down the drain. After the freakout ends, he goes out onto the back porch and chain smokes my dad's cigarettes, then begs him to go buy another carton, so he smokes 10 more packs before passing out on the couch, making the whole living room smell like an ashtray. Growing up, I was honestly scared of Uncle Bob. Now, I just hate him 365 days out of the year. But that one day I'm still afraid of him makes up for every day I spend ignoring him. That one day is the Super Bowl. This year, Bob kept telling us non-stop that this Super Bowl was going to be the one. He said he had thousands of dollars riding on some weird betting system we'd never heard of before. Of course, we all told him to keep that money, but telling a gambling addict to save his money is like telling a fly not to land on shit. On the day of the Super Bowl, we went to our rooms to watch it, leaving Bob alone with the game on the big screen. When the game was over, I went out to check on him. He was gathering his things to leave, a look of pure emptiness on his face. I asked him where he was going, but he just said, out. He left without another word. slamming the door behind him. It was like his addiction had finally broken him. However much he lost, it must have been worse than ever. We didn't see Bob for nearly 2 days. With every second that passed, I got more concerned. Even my dad admitted to being scared. He said if Bob didn't come back after 3 days, we would report him missing. However, the night before that happened, there was a development. I was lying awake in bed when I got a phone call. It was Bob. I picked it up, not knowing what he would say.
Uncle Bob? Why are you calling me so late? Where are you?
Listen, my boy. Listen to me very carefully. I've been kidnapped.
What? By who?
By bad people, kiddo. Very bad people I owe a lot of money to, but you can help me.
Uncle Bob, just call the police.
No, I can't trust them. Oh, shit. They heard me. Listen, kid, you gotta help me before it's too late. They're coming. Hurry!
Uncle Bob? Uncle Bob! Shit! Dad!
Suddenly, I forgot about every annoying and depressing thing that Uncle Bob did. He was in danger. He wasn't a good person, but he was family, and he didn't deserve to die. I ran to my dad, hoping he would know what to do. We called the police and begged them to find Bob. Hours went by. We all felt terrible, knowing he'd been kidnapped for 2 whole days, and we never even bothered to look for him. But then, a miracle happened. The police found Bob, and he was okay. We were so happy to have him back. It was the first time we'd been happy about anything to do with him in years. Sadly, the moment didn't last. The cops who found Bob, they didn't find him beaten, panicking, or disheveled like you'd expect of a kidnapping victim. There was something off about how calm and clean he was. The timing of the whole thing was suspicious too. The more they looked into it, the more sure they became. Bob faked it. He was never kidnapped. He made it up. It was all just some stupid ruse to try and get out of paying gambling debts. He'd put so much money on the Super Bowl, only to end up owing over 50 grand. Naturally, the cops arrested Bob for fraud, and for all I care, he can stay in prison and pay off his debts from the inside. That's the last time he ever plays with our hearts. A US man has been accused of staging his own elaborate kidnapping to avoid paying out lost Super Bowl bets. Robert Brandel, 60, was found tied up in his truck near Buffalo in New York State. He told officers he had been abducted by 2 armed men 2 days earlier, but police were suspicious that he appeared to be clean-shaven and calm. Officials now believe he was trying to get out of paying $50,000 he owes, following an online group bet. He faces charges of fraud and filing a false police report.